What's up guys, and welcome back to some more Pokemon Sun and Moon coverage with me, TheOneIntegral, and today we're going to be doing some Alola analysis. What is that going to entail? Well, firstly it's going to be looking at the shot of Alola we have already and saying, right, so we know it's based on Hawaii, obviously, I'm sure you guys have heard that. I'm going to be picking apart individual places and saying this is based off of this might be a reference to this sort of thing, and then talking slightly about what this might mean for the game, and then after that I'll be talking about the other islands of Hawaii, because there are more, so it's likely we'll get more sections to this region, and I'll be talking about what we might be able to expect over on those. So first up, Alola so far. Alola so far basically is what we've seen in this image. It seems to be fairly small, so it's likely we're going to get at least another island to go to in this region. It's unlikely it's going to be a total of 8 islands, which it is for Hawaii. It's likely we might get 3 or 4, but I wouldn't see 8, especially since some of them are smaller islands as well. But I guess we have to see in the end. But this this first island of Alola is based on the island of Oahu. You'll have to excuse any of my pronunciations throughout the whole of this video. But Oahu is sort of one of the main islands of Hawaii. It's known as the Gathering Island, and I think it's the second biggest, or maybe the third biggest. So it's in the big 3 basically. One of the big 3 ones are actually sort of well, they're all inhabited basically, but some of them are very sparsely inhabited, or some of them very well, a lot of people live there, whereas some don't. It's the third largest, and it's home of the state's capital as well. Despite not being, it's not the largest island, but it still has the capital of the state of Hawaii, which is Honolulu. So even the bigger islands don't have that, and we'll see why when we get to those islands. So what can we see about this image of Alola so far? Well, the first thing that sort of jumps out at you is this big sort of, I guess, mountain slash volcano slash crater at the bottom of Alola here, and this is actually based off of the Diamond Head crater, which isn't a volcano as such, but it's a volcanic tuff cone, or it's sort of like basically a vent for a dormant volcano. This is sort of one of the volcanoes that made this whole stretch of Hawaii, all the islands. Obviously it no longer is not active anymore, but this is one of the sort of the remains basically. One good thing to mention here, actually, in my opinion at least, is inside the crater in real life there's actually some sort of I guess it's a study station. But it could mean that inside here, it's not going to be like an active volcano. I very much doubt it's going to be an active volcano in the game. It will be a dormant one, or but there might be, for example, the evil team have a secret base inside here. That's just a quick idea I'm throwing out. It could be an idea, it could be, so you do this island, you get away, and then you come back, a bit later into the story, and like, whoa, there was a hidden base here all the time. That's crazy, and this sort of thing. So who knows, that might happen. Then sort of the next biggest thing for this island is you can see the city over to the left side, which basically takes up almost the whole of the southwestern of the island. It's a very big city, and this is actually combining both Honolulu and Waikiki, which is one of the big tourist districts on the island of Oahu. So basically it's just your capital city, okay? So this might be the biggest city we see for the whole of Alola, or it could just be a case of they're not going to sort of keep it being the capital there. They will simply maybe change it and have it on another island. I don't know, but this city seems pretty big anyway. Things to pick out about the city. The first one is this tall building in the centre of it, which seems a tall circular building, which looking around seems to either be based off of the Aston Waikiki Circle Hotel or the Hyatt Regency Waikiki Beach Resort and Spa. So basically a hotel of some sort. So this is likely what it would be in the game as well. Sort of referencing maybe back to Black and White, where you had that big skyscraper that had loads of offices where you could battle people. It might be a similar sort of thing to that, but a hotel where you can go in and battle people every day in each room or something like that. It's a possibility. The other big building here is this blue building to the south of it, and sort of its surrounding area as well, and basically what this is based off of is Pearl Harbor. I'm sure you guys know what Pearl Harbor is. It's basically a harbour on the island of Oahu. It's a lagoon harbour actually. It looks slightly different here obviously, but I would very much doubt it that Game Freak would do an exact replica of the Pearl Harbor, since if you guys didn't know, Japan was the one that attacked Pearl Harbor, so it would be a bit weird for a company, I think Game Freak is Japanese based at least, Pokemon is known for being originating in Japan. It would be a bit weird if they did it exactly. So it's sort of taking some inspiration here, but there seems to be a harbour of some sort, and it's likely there will be a ferry here leading to other islands, at least before we get Fly to access them as well, or another different travel, maybe Soaring will return. I'll talk more about that in another video. Then the only other thing really, well, there's a couple more things to talk about for this island, but the first one is the mountainous range towards the back of the island. As you can see, it sort of hides the back section of the island, but you can assume it's just going to be some sort of mountain range or hills at least. And obviously this is again a reference to the Koalu mountain range, which again links into the Diamond Head crater, dormant volcano, that's where it was all created from. And then finally we have these two black rock rings, I'm going to call them, around the island. The first one you can see is obviously to the bottom of the image here, it goes around the bottom of the island, and then the second one is up to the top right, which goes around sort of the eastern side. Now obviously in the game these are just here as sea barriers to stop you from, you know, surfing all the way out to sea. You'll be able to surf around you'll be able to surf around the area inside the black rock rings, but you won't be able to go outside them. One interesting thing to point out with that is actually that the black rock rings extend around this mountain base here, and they go all the way around, so it seems you might be able to actually surf around this mountain here, rather than, because why would they do that? Why not just bring a rock into the mountain and allow you to stop there? And then I'll link you into this little piece of beach to the left, upper left of this mountain hill, crater, whatever, which could also be a secret entrance in there, who knows, just for an ideas. Anyway, back to these black rocks. They could be based off of something called fish ponds, but it was an old Hawai'i. It's used sometimes. There are some existing still, but it was a sort of a unique aquaculture thing done on Hawaii that actually was used for sort of farming fish, I guess. Big little fish swim inside these big things, and then when they grow a bit larger, when they eat food, for example, they can't then swim out because the way it's done is as very small holes, for example. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but it might be a relation to that, might be some inspiration for that, or of course they could just be rocks to stop you from surfing out to sea. That's what remains to be seen. But then we have the other islands as well, and we're going to go through as quickly as possible. But first we're going to go and check the western islands, the islands that are west of Oahu. So it's likely that there's two ways to go from Oahu. There's either west or there's east. There's 5 islands to the east and 2 to the west. Either it will be a case of yes, you can go to the east, that's where you go and you do some adventures there, and then the west islands open up and you sort of go back across Oahu in the game. This is what I'm talking about. Or they will leave out the western islands and simply keep it to you go down in a line, just because, as I mentioned, it's unlikely they're going to have 8 islands. But if they do go to these islands, the first one you'll reach is Kau. I don't know how to pronounce it, but this is the Garden Isle. It has a mild climate, but also has some localized weather phenomenon that can cause some instances of extreme weather, so possibly some storms on this island. I'm imagining if this island were to appear in game, what we might see. There's also lots of rain, so if any island is going to be like a really, really wet island, it might likely be this one. There are also thousands of wild chickens on Kau, because why not? There's no natural predators for them, so there's thousands of wild chickens. So if this island were to be in, they might add in a chicken Pokemon. We have some already, of course, but a different one of some sort, which could link into that. Just an idea I'm throwing out there. It's also home to the Pacific Missile Range Facility, which is where they can test missiles and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's active anymore, but that's on the island. So if the island's in the game, they could link in there. Who knows? Then, just slightly further west of Kau, is the island of Niho. So it's a very small island. It's not the smallest, it's the second smallest, I believe. So again, this is a lot unlikely one to appear, but it is actually called the Forbidden Isle. So very ominous. So if it were to appear in game, it could be some sort of like special island you can only visit for a certain purpose. Who knows? But it's actually relatively arid due to sort of living in the shadow of Kau. It doesn't get as much rain, so if there was to be a desert island, it could be this one, for example. But then if we head back over to the east of Oahu and check out these other islands, which arguably are more likely to appear in game, not all of them of course, but some of them. First up we have Molokai, which is called the Friendly Isle, so who knows, and it's this nice long island here. It's known for the Molokai Ranch, which was a ranch that sort of, pineapple plantations, cattle ranching, stuff like that. But I read some of that's actually shut down now. They've sold a lot of their land and sort of, pulled up stakes. So I'm not sure if it's active anymore. But it could possibly be a location in the game. You could have a ranch, where they would farm a new cow mob or mill tank or something along those lines. You get the idea. There's actually 2 sections to Molokai, well not 2 sections, but 2 areas to Molokai. As you can see on the image, the lower western half is really dry, as you can tell on the image, as I mentioned, it's really sort of orangey and yellowy colour. whereas the eastern half is on a high plateau, so it tends to get more rain, it's more wet with more forests and such. So obviously that would be a clear sort of split in the game. They could say, right, let's make the west of this island a desert, and we'll make the east a sort of less desert basically. So that's a possibility there. Then to the south of Molokai there is the island Lanai, which is called the Pineapple Isle. Why is it called the Pineapple Isle? Well, at one point it was the whole island basically was a pineapple plantation. It's not anymore, and another fun fact here is actually 98% owned by the founder of Oracle, which makes software and stuff. It's a bit weird, an island's owned by someone, but yeah, and then the final 2% is actually owned by the state still, so the state's still there. But reportedly, or there was obviously some sections of Hawaiian mythology, which I'll hopefully check out in a future video. Hawaiian mythology, there were stories of the island being haunted by ghosts and goblins. So if this island does appear, it might be an opportunity to have some ghosts sort of roaming in the wild, or maybe a couple of sections, caves, for example, that are inhabited by ghosts. Just ideas I'm throwing out there again. And it's also home to the Mount Lanai Hole, I think is the correct that, and it's actually an inactive volcano, so that could be some sort of hill or something if it were to appear. Just an idea. Then to the east of Molokai and Lanai we have the island of Maui, which is the Valley Isle, and this is the second largest island, so it's bigger than Oahu / the Alola we've seen, but smaller than the final one. So this is the likely one to appear. If we had to choose some islands to appear, I would say the one we've seen, Molokai, this island, and then the final island. So Maui is the second largest. There are actually many microclimates across Maui as well, so it's not like, it's a warm place. Some places can be nice and warm and get rain, some will be sort of drier, so it's likely it might be an island where we can see loads of different spots and different types of Pokemon, for example. It's also home to the Maui High Performance Computing Center and the Haleakalo, I think I'm saying that wrong because my handwriting's terrible, Haleakalo Observatory, so a computer place and a place to look at space. So it's possible they could put a space station or some sort of observatory in there as well, as a possibility. I'm just throwing ideas out here on this island. Then before we hit the final island, there's one last one to look at, and this is Kahulaui, and this is the target isle. It's the smallest island of the 8, so this is the one that's sort of most likely probably not to get in, because it's a small island, and if they're scaling it down as well for the game, so it's very, plus this island is very sparsely inhabited, so there's hardly anyone living there, so you might get one small village, but that'd be it. So it would basically just be a route on the island. There would be nothing there to do, so it's unlikely that one will make it across the game. So they could do it if they want to do all 8 and make it proper, but I can't see it happening. Then let's move on to the final island, which is clearly the most interesting, and this is the island of Hawaii. Yes, it's the biggest island, and it's known as the Big Island because it's the biggest island of the 8, and it's the most interesting. Why? Because it's built from 5 different volcanoes. There is the volcano of Kohala, which is extinct. There's Mauna Kea, which is dormant, so it's not doing anything anymore. There is Huanalai, which is active, but it's a smaller one. Then there's Mauna Loa, which is active and it's quite big. And then finally there is Kilauea, which is active and has been erupting continuously since 1983. So there's loads of volcanoes on here, and this is an island I could see being like the final island, where you go and Elite Force, possibly in a volcano somewhere, something along those lines. Because it's the biggest island, it would make a nice finale. There's also a place known as the Great Crack, which is a fissure towards the south of the island, which is like a big fissure that's like a couple kilometers long, so that could make an appearance and have caves inside it or something like that. But this island is also quite prone to earthquakes and tsunamis, as are all of the islands, since they're all on a I haven't done geography in ages, I can't remember the term for it, they're on a crust line, whatever it's called, so they're very prone to earthquakes there, and obviously tsunamis coming from those earthquakes, but obviously the island of Hawaii is most prone since it's got the most volcanoes and some of them are active and such. There's also volcanic fog that can cover the island at some point, sometimes if one of the volcanoes erupts too much, you can get loads of fog and such. But there are actually many parks and refuges over this island, obviously protecting wildlife, since there's volcanoes there as well, you don't want to go wandering to. So this island, there are quite a few towns and such on this island, but there's also a lot of parks and nature and such. So what could they do with this island? As I mentioned already, one idea is the Elite Four to be on this island inside the volcano is an idea I had. But there's also the idea, also the sort of the thing we need to think about. What's going to happen? We have 18 different types in Pokemon and they range from fire, that works out, we've got a volcano, it's all good, to ice. How are you going to get ice in Hawaii? Well, one idea is you've got these two big mountains, Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea. Kea being dormant, so it's not actually erupting currently. So they could make Mauna Kea into a snowy mountain and Mauna Loa into a volcano. So you could have Mauna Loa, we can get all your fire types from there, and Mauna Kea is an area slash mountain where there are ice types to get, rather than Hoenn, which had basically a cave where all the ice types were found, which was hardly any, of course. So it's likely they do something similar to that. Or they could turn one of the other islands into some sort of snowy island if they didn't want to combine it on one. But I would see the island of Hawaii being like a final island where they have maybe like the last two gyms, the Elite Four, maybe something related to the actual sort of storyline of the game with the legendaries and the temple we've seen and such. Could be on Hawaii, could be on top of Mauna Loa, for example. Yeah. Those are the ideas. That's my Alola analysis. I haven't gone too in depth. I could have been like, oh, there's this town here that could be no, I'm not going to do that. But you guys get the general idea of the video. Let me know what you think about Alola so far. Would you think we're going to see like all 8 islands, or do you think they're going to be like, okay, we'll just have the 4 biggest ones, and then, just give me your ideas as well. Hello guys, I've gone through my ideas. Let me know yours. I'm always interested to see, and we shall talk some more about Alola another time, I'm sure. But for now, this is going to be it for me for today. So if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. But this is going to be it for me for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.